Hey everybody, this is Nick Baldwin, and today I'm being joined by UFC lightweight Ricky Glenn, who's coming off a 37 knockout win over Joaquim Silva at UFC Fight Night this past weekend in Las Vegas. It was his first fight since November of 2018, long layoff, and he comes back with a huge victory. Ricky, how are you?
Doing great. Back home. Enjoyed Father's Day. Just hanging out with some family and doing some errands, things around the house. Feeling great.
Sounds good. Thanks again for taking the time, and congratulations again on this big win. What did it feel like to go in there and get this win so quickly after all you've been through, the time off? What did it feel like to get that win?
Amazing. It was a huge relief because especially the timeline that I was out for, the hip surgery, all I was like 2.5 years of investing my time into that match ultimately is what I was thinking, all that time invested in the one match. And kind of the financial stagnation of not having that income from the fights, and having to do some other things to make up for it, and just a lot of things involved. And it was just a huge relief to get back in the win column, and just how I was looking forward to just getting it done however I could. I was telling myself, I came out to Vegas for one thing: kick this dude's ass and get home.
Yeah, I mean, when you drop him, when the fight's over, the ref steps in, like what's going through your head at that moment? Like, are you even able to process what just happened? What was the initial thought, like as soon as the fight ended?
Oh man, I just like exploded with like a big like yell, and I just like flexed a little bit, and just like, oh, all that energy is like a huge release. And I got a little emotional, and I actually started sweating more after kind of bouncing around the cage and all being all flexed up. It's like, and then I just started like gushing with sweat.
Yeah. Were you expecting anything close to what happened? Like, I know a lot of fighters, they hope for finishes, sometimes they even expect them, but 37 knockout, that's pretty crazy. Would you have expected anything close to the result that you had on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I visualized. I visualized the fight being finished in a lot of different ways. I was expected to go the distance, but I'm not surprised that that happened. But it's kind of funny though, because a lot of fighters, we joke around, or the family and friends will say, be safe, and just knock him out the first punch and don't get hit. And I pretty much knocked him out the first punch, and I didn't get hit. I had to put a little extra on it, because when he hit the mat, he came back to it. But it was awesome because I didn't get hit, didn't take any damage. Back in the gym, helping some teammates, back to teaching. My body feels great.
I guess this win puts the ring rust debate, at least for yourself, to bed. Like, there is no ring rust whatsoever.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting any ring rust either, which some people are kind of worried about. But I move around so much, and there was a year where I didn't get back into full MMA training because of the hip surgery. But regardless of that, I'm always training and moving. So I think the people that get the ring rust are probably in and out of training or take long layoffs. So I don't ever take really any layoffs. So I wasn't expecting any ring rust.
Yeah.
I guess the layoffs besides actually being in the ring or the cage, but I'm always moving around and working all my disciplines for a fight.
Yeah. How cool was it to get your first finish in the UFC, actually win or lose under these circumstances, all the time off? Like, based on the layoff, like that's not something that really shapes up for a quick finish like this, or your only finish in the UFC. Does that just make it even the more special?
Yeah, that made it even sweeter. My last 7 fights actually all went 7 of my last fights went the distance, which is really unusual for my whole MMA career, because I had for a while like almost 100% finish rate in quite a few fights. I went 5 years. I think it was 13 fights, and I think it was just like one of them was one of them went the distance. I think that was a 5-round fight. But in those 13 fights, I think I had 12 finishes. So
Yeah.
I'm used to finishing my opponents. So it's good to get back to my old ways, and
Well,
a lot better too. That was probably my best performance ever.
do you know off the top of your head if this was your quickest finish ever? Because I know on Tapology of the ones listed, this is the quickest, but there's like your 8 or 9 first pro fights. There's no time listed, so there might be like a 15-second knockout in there somewhere. But do you know if this might be the fastest ever?
With my pro, I think when I was amateur, I had one that was like 20 something seconds. But
Okay.
There were 2 pro fights where I had an armbar finish and a triangle finish against the same guy. It was my first 145-pound fight, and then the next one was a rematch with the guy for MCC. It was a Midwest Cage Championship promotion that's actually coming back to Iowa now. So it's a big higher level promotion, feeder. A lot of talent came out of there. But my first and second 145-pound fights, they were around 30 seconds, I believe.
Okay.
I finished him in around 30 seconds.
What is it like to go in there and get such a quick finish? Just, I mean, even as circumstances aside the layoff, but like if you do keep or take into account the time off, like are you almost left wanting more? Like you've been working so much, so for so long, you've been waiting for this moment, and it lasts less than a minute. Like, are you almost like, damn, I wish I could go like a round or 2 more, or are you just happy to get the win?
Just super happy to get the win. I think my body was just like naturally wanting more, because afterwards we left the UFC's we left their bubble and got our own hotel and walked around the Strip and Fremont Street and walked around Vegas a little bit, and ate some food, and I watched the rest of the fights elsewhere. But when we were walking, I'm just like, I'm trucking along ahead of everyone. They're like, dang, man, you're on a mission. I was like, they didn't tell me to slow down or anything, but I was like, oh shoot, like I'm moving pretty fast, and it's like we're like just sweating, and it was pretty warm in Vegas at the time too, or things were heating up. But and I'm back in the gym. I'm trying to kind of check myself, like I'm taking it easy this week, and then I'm kicking it back up next week.
Yeah. Can you even put into words how big of a win this was for your career coming off the layoff? As you mentioned, you had to do some other things with the time off, financial wise. How big was this? A loss would have put you at 1-3 in your last 4 fights, not the best position. Like, how important and how big for your career was this one win?
Yeah, it's big. It's hard to put into words, because for one, I'm thankful. UFC took care of me and helping me with the surgery, and they gave me another opportunity of getting back in there. I thought I was going to get in a little sooner, but it took a little longer recovery than I was expected. So I'm, thankful they, didn't cut me, because sometimes, they cut people for that inactivity, I think, and they gave me a shot, and I felt like this was another interview to further my career with them, because this was my last fight on the contract too. And I think if I would have, and I just feel like if I would have lost this, then I was probably definitely getting cut. And so it's, I'm very thankful that I'm able to further my career, and I actually got a 4-fight contract sent over to me right after the fight. Management was on it, so got an extension with them.
Bit of a pay increase. Are you happy with it?
Yeah, I'm happy with it. Pay increase. So and they I should be a lot more active now, obviously, that I don't have injuries, some nagging stuff I have to deal with. My body's healthy. I'm happy. I'm not opposed to short notice fights, so I told them that, but ultimately I'd like to get into summer or September. But if anything, if anything pops up and I'm good to go, I'm not opposed to filling in.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that, the time off, the time away from the cage financially hasn't been the easiest. I'm sure the pandemic hasn't made that any easier for you. What did you do as a result of the time off? Like, did you have to go and get a day job for a little while? You teach a little bit. What went on when
Yeah.
you weren't fighting?
Well, I started working with the best master plumber in town. I know, so I hope he's watching this. He'll get a kick out of this. But really good guy. He's like a cousin, a good family friend. So I picked up a new trade. I learned a new trade in plumbing. And little dad joke for you guys. It's good, but gets a little crappy sometimes. and then I did some tree service work with a logging and tree service company for a little while. That is month and a half, I think. There was a land hurricane that came through Iowa and destroyed actually a third of the crops. So there's a lot of damage. And then back to the pandemic, nothing besides, besides having a positive COVID test back in December, not much had changed for us when it came to the pandemic and the COVID stuff. We did lose a family member. My wife's uncle died, so that that was obviously the change. That really sucked.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thanks. But for us personally, nothing changed for us. We were able to continue working. The gym did have to close down for a few months, I believe. But besides that, we're actually able to save a little. And luckily, I feel really bad for all the people that have, mortgages or they're managing their debt through their careers, but had to stop. And, the self-employed people, like myself, I wasn't able to collect unemployment or anything, and some other small businesses aren't able to collect some of those benefits just because they haven't been established very long. So that's it's been really tough on the world. So I think things are finally starting to get back to normal. Vegas was crazy. It's the busiest I've ever seen Vegas after my fight ever. It was wild. I know they opened like a couple months ago, I think, but a lot of people enjoying life and checking it out.
Well, it must feel nice to know that the UFC paychecks are coming at a regular rate now, or at least hopefully, knock on wood, of course. And now you don't need to go do plumbing if you don't want to.
Yeah, it's fun. I enjoy working my hands. The guy I work with is awesome. I'll probably continue working a little bit, maybe once a week or a couple times a week when it works out. So I do enjoy that stuff still.
Yeah. Okay. And as far as why you were out for so long, I know the hip surgery, I'm sure was all of it, a big part of it, if not all of it. But for anyone listening that maybe wasn't familiar with what happened, what you've been through, was it just the hip surgery and a longer recovery than expected? Was there any other smaller things that kept you out? I mean, of course, the COVID test back in December sort of just extended it, but was it kind of just the hip surgery? What happened exactly?
Well, the hip surgery, there's a pretty major hip surgery, labrum, bone spur, some cartilage stuff. There's a bad impingement thing they fixed. So kind of long recovery from that. A torn MCL back, it was like a year ago now. So I was ready to come back and then like, oh, crap. Yeah, my knee's messed up. I got an MRI. And luckily, it didn't need surgery. They usually don't do surgeries on the MCLs. And then December rolled around, trained really hard for that, went out there and had a positive COVID test out there. And, just got back right in the gym and was patiently waiting and put me back in there. And now here we are.
During the time off, did you ever think about retirement? Not because you felt, hey, I can't go back out there when I'm recovered and win fights, but it's taking so long. What am I waiting for? Like, did those thoughts ever go through your mind at all?
No, I didn't think of retirement in the recovery process. It was actually before I got my hip fixed. I was thinking, this might be it. This is horrible. I'm a pretty tough guy. Most mixed martial artists or MMA guys are pretty tough. But just the nagging of that injury was just such a pain in the ass. And then keeping my weight down. So the weight cut, the hip thing, it was getting to be ridiculous. It was kind of miserable, and now I'm glad to have that behind me.
How long was it where you were feeling the effects of a bad hip and then getting the surgery? Like, were you kind of going on with it for quite a while?
Yeah, I don't want to say exactly. I'm not sure, but it was quite a while. And my younger days, I don't think I took care of my body like I should have. Obviously, I've been eating good, and I'm kind of a little unusual amongst unusual people when it comes to the nutrition and performance stuff. But the mobility aspect of my training, I think I had neglected that for a while, and I was just grinding, 5 training sessions a day, running tons of kicks, and just beating the crap out of my body and not letting it recover right. So when I was younger, I think I just kind of tortured my body and didn't let it heal when it should have been healing.
I'm about to sneeze. Sorry. You mentioned earlier that over the time off, you felt that you've made some improvements in terms of your actual game. What are those improvements? Where do you think you've improved without fighting? Just being in the gym and having that time off.
Some big improvements would be the mobility, especially in that hip. My strength and conditioning. I think my overall game had improved. My big improvement, just like my body positioning. So I'd say my mechanics, the body positioning, mobility has improved a lot.
Yeah. Okay. This was your first fight back at 155 since I believe your debut against Evan Dunham. How did you feel back at 155, and do you see this as a permanent home for you?
Yeah, I'm here to stay at 155. I'll never go back to 145 again. It's not going to happen. No way. 155 is still, it's kind of tough to make. It's not an easy cut, but my body had adjusted to a higher weight class, just naturally kind of balanced out a little higher. My body's a little more dense now that I'm getting older, and I knew, and I was hoping, obviously, but I figured I'd perform a lot better at 155, not having to cut so much muscle and cut into my body so much and kind of kill myself making that weight. So, and I was right, and it paid off in that performance I had last of the Saturday.
Yeah, I know. I was on. I saw on Twitter after your fight, after your win, someone tweeted, "Ricky Glenn greater than symbol Rick Glenn." I don't know if there's anything to it, but it's hard to disagree with. I'll be honest.
Cool. That's cool. Yeah, I got coworkers and friends and family. Most of them call me Ricky, Ricky G, Ricky Bobby, or like I started going by Ricky again. I just had everyone change it over, like, hey, just call me by my real name, and that's what most people call me, is Ricky. That people that know me. And originally I started going by Rick. It was like back in 2nd grade, man. My dad had a girlfriend named Ricky, and I was like, hold up, nah, I'm Rick now. Like, I'm not gonna have a girl's name. And I was
that's funny,
just a little boy,
But back to Ricky, and that's what you're gonna be.
Yep.
All right. You mentioned in your post-fight interview that you're good to fight whenever. You said next week after, sign me up. And I mean, it's understandable considering all this time off. And I mean, during this COVID era, it seems like the UFC is willing to book fighters kind of maybe not back-to-back weeks, but pretty close together. Have you heard from the promotion about your next fight, or if they want you to fight again real soon?
Yeah, they were asking me my timeline. I'd like to fight at least 3 or 4 times a year. I'm not opposed to short or last minute fill-in fights. If I'm healthy and good at the time, then sign me up. Ultimately, I think into summer, September would be perfect. I got a few things coming up with the family, but I'm not opposed to the short notice fights. I'm staying ready. I'm in the gym. I'm healthy. Obviously, I didn't take any damage. And I don't know if I mentioned to you or not, but I signed a 4-fight deal. So they sent me over a new contract. Okay, if I did. So I'd like to, I'd like to get, if I could get at least 2 fights in by the end of the year. I mean, 2 or 3 more fights in by the end of the year. That'd be perfect.
Sounds like a plan. Ricky, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it. And congratulations again on the big win last week.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thank you.